Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Troy McIntosh. I'm the Executive Director of the Ohio Christian Education Network, and I'm very pleased to be with you tonight to talk about mainly two things, two categories of things. The first one, I want to give each of you an update on some of the legislative action that has been occurring that will almost certainly have an effect on schools like Cincinnati Christian, as well as the families and students who attend there. So I'll give you a brief rundown of some of those, and then I want to kind of walk you through the scholarship granting organization donation process and how that works and how your contributions or even better described, kind of a redirection of your taxes can benefit the school and the students who attend here. So those are the two big goals for tonight. But let me just start by saying how much we are honored to represent Cincinnati Christian in our network. We have 185 member schools across the state, and CCS is one of them. And primarily what we do is serve as your advocate in state government. And so I'm a lobbyist. As a matter of fact, I came here tonight from the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee, where I gave testimony on Substitute House Bill 407, which is one of the bills that I'll talk about tonight. And so we are very pleased to be able to make sure that schools, Christian schools like Cincinnati Christian, have a seat at the table when education policy decisions are being made. And then we also run a scholarship granting organization that I'll talk a little bit about more later. And we do some other things, including some school planting, helping new Christian schools get started across the state. But I want to thank Cincinnati Christian. You guys are certainly one of our lead members, and your head of school, Ray Coaches, serves on our leadership council, along with 8 other school heads from across the state. And so there's certainly a prime role that your school is serving in some very important ways, and so we want to thank you for that. But so first thing I want to do tonight is kind of give a legislative update. And there are some key pieces of legislation that have either just recently been passed or are being considered right now that could have some significant impact on you guys. And the first one that I want to point out is House Bill 33. So this was passed into law in the summer, almost a year and a half ago now, in June of 23. HB 33 was the state budget bill that allocated revenue for the 2-year biennial cycle of the state budget. Embedded within that was perhaps the most important piece of education legislation we've had in Ohio in our lifetimes. And that was the universal expansion of the Ed Choice Scholarship Program, so that every student in the state became eligible for an Ed Choice Scholarship. And I hope those of you who are here tonight or are watching on video have been able to take advantage of that program to qualify for a state scholarship that you can apply towards your tuition at Cincinnati Christian. This was a major piece of legislation that we worked on almost nonstop for 2 years. Some of you may have heard, well, it was about 2 years ago that I was down here in this room addressing a group of parents from CCS about the backpack bill. And this was essentially what the state passed in HB 33. It was a little bit different. They, instead of using an ESA platform, they chose to expand the existing Ed Choice Scholarship Program. But every student in the state, regardless of income, regardless of where they live or what school district they're assigned to, or whether they've previously been in a private school or not, are now eligible for that scholarship. So I do hope that you've been able to take advantage of that program. Ohio is only one of 11 states in the country that have a universal school choice, or close to universal even, school choice program. And so we're excited to be able to build on that and give high quality Christian education options to families across the state. However, some of you may know that just prior to HB 33 passing, a coalition of public school districts across the state, a little over 200 of them are now involved in the coalition, sued the state, claiming that the Ed Choice Scholarship Program was unconstitutional and violated the Ohio State Constitution. So not the federal Constitution. The federal constitutionality of programs like Ed Choice has been established for 2 decades. But this coalition was challenging on state constitutional grounds and on a very specific clause in the state constitution that said the General Assembly must provide a thorough and efficient system of common schools in Ohio. And the coalition is claiming that the Ed Choice program prevents the state from providing a thorough and efficient system of common or public schools, as well as there's no authorization in the state to provide such a program. Now, we stridently oppose the arguments made in the coalition's lawsuit. We disagree with them on a very fundamental level and believe there's no merit to them at all. However, the case currently sits in Franklin County Court. Judge Jasa Page is the presiding judge. It was actually scheduled to go to trial January of this past year, of 24. Judge Page delayed it until this November. It was scheduled to go to trial for the second time. It was scheduled for the second time to go to trial, and on November 4th, beginning of November 4th, and she delayed it again. And so we are now expecting the trial at the county court level to begin in February or March of 25. Now, again, we are confident in the ultimate victory of our side and the constitutionality of the program. However, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually lost at the county level. But what I do know with 100% confidence, regardless of whatever decision is made at the county level, the losing side is going to appeal. And it's going to go to an appeals court, a state appeals court, and regardless of what decision is made at the appeals court, it's going to be appealed again to the Supreme Court. And we have a high level of confidence that the Supreme Court is going to take that case up and is going to rule in our favor. And one of the reasons we are so confident in that is because of the elections this past November had a conservative sweep of the 3 Supreme Court positions that were on the ballot, which give conservatives a 6-1 advantage on the court. Now, no Supreme Court justice, either in their campaign or a sitting justice, will ever give any indication on how they will rule on any case. It would be a violation of judicial ethics to do that. But you can read between the lines, and conservatives has historically supported school choice programs. And so the fact that there's a 6-1 majority in the court gives us pretty high level of confidence that we'll be able to garner at least the 4 votes that we need to have a winning decision on that. So we do not believe the Ed Choice program is going anywhere. There is overwhelming support in the General Assembly for it. As a matter of fact, the General Assembly, both the House and the Senate, are much more likely to be considering ways to expand the program than to shrink the program or even to eliminate it. So there's overwhelming support. It's not just in Ohio. This is a nationwide trend. All of the momentum is on the side of school choice. Almost every week there are states that are passing new pieces of legislation through committee, through the floor. North Carolina, Texas, Oklahoma. It's becoming a big wave of school choice. So we're highly confident that the program that you've been able to take advantage of this year, all of you, is going to be in place for a very, very long time. And that's part of what we do, is to make sure that we advocate to make sure that remains in place. So that's HB 33 and kind of the status of the current lawsuit that we have. A second piece of legislation that was just recently passed this calendar year is HB 68, and that is otherwise known as the SAFE Act and the Save Women's Sports Act. Now, these don't relate directly to schools, but they do indirectly because it has to do with children mainly. And the SAFE Act was the bill that passed that prohibited children's hospitals and gender clinics from providing gender transition therapy to minors. So things like cross-sex hormones, things like puberty blockers, things like surgeries and so forth, these are now banned on minors in Ohio, thanks to the SAFE Act. And we were the primary advocate for that, as well as the Save Women's Sports Act, which requires student athletes in K-12 schools to participate in athletics according to their biological sex. And so we were major advocates on both of those. That bill was passed over the summer. It was challenged in court, again, by the ACLU. And in August, a Franklin County judge, Judge Holbrook, dismissed the ACLU's case and ruled in favor of the act. And both of those pieces of legislation are now law in Ohio. A third one relates to schools is SB 293. This is the release time for religious instruction, or RTRI bill. Many of you are familiar with the LifeWise program that takes place in public schools throughout the state. So again, this doesn't directly relate to Christian schools like CCS, but it does to the educational landscape in general. Right now, state law gives permission for a local public school district to allow RTRI programs like LifeWise, they just happen to be the largest, but there are others, to operate in their school based on a board resolution by the local district. SB 293 would alter that to require districts to allow RTRI programs to take place in their school. And this is in reaction to a number of districts across Ohio, mainly in central Ohio, where I'm from, not permitting the RTRI programs in their school or removing existing programs in their school. And so the legislature says, no, we're not going to have any of that. Parents have the right to determine whether they want to remove their child from a lunch and recess period for religious instruction if they want, and the school can't stop them from doing that. So that's SB 293. There's been a lot of testimony even this week on that bill. My colleague has testified, David Mann has testified in favor of that. And we're hopeful that we'll get that particular piece of legislation passed by the end of December. HB 8, or otherwise known as the Parents' Bill of Rights, essentially is meant to ensconce in law that the primary agents that are responsible for the child's education are mom and dad. And it seems rather crazy that you have to have a piece of legislation to stipulate that, but that is exactly the point of HB 8, is to make sure that all future laws are interpreted through the lens that is the intent of the General Assembly to give parents the primary right for guiding the education of their students. And that is largely the whole justification behind programs like EdChoice, right? It empowers you all to be the decision makers on where to take your child's education funding into an area that best serves your child and aligns with the deeply held beliefs that you have. So HB 8 it's not like all of a sudden we have some new programs from HB 8, but what it does is it sets the tone and tenor for the rest of the General Assembly's work, even on into the future. And so we're working hard to get that passed as well. You may have heard of HB 168. It's also called the bathroom bill, which a little crass, but that's what it came to be known as. But this is the bill that would require all K-12 schools to assign bathrooms based on biological sex. So boys and boys bathrooms, girls and girls bathrooms, and no crossing over based on gender identity or any of the other things that we see going on today. That was passed, and it was passed about a week ago. It was delivered to the governor yesterday. The governor has 10 days to either sign it or veto it. Now, he vetoed the SAFE Act and Save Women's Sports Act, you may remember. And the General Assembly had to override his veto on that. Now, he's given us every indication that he intends to sign the bathroom bill, but until he actually does it, we're kind of waiting to see whether the General Assembly is again going to have to take up their ability to override his veto. But we're excited about getting that established as well. And then lastly, and this is one that is going to affect a lot of families in Cincinnati Christian, and that is Senate Bill 311. So we're working with Senator O'Brien. She's out of Ashtabula. This bill would authorize the state to grant an Ed Choice scholarship to students who are already on either the John Peterson Scholarship or the Autism Scholarship. Right now, state law prohibits a student from having either an Autism or a Peterson Scholarship and an Ed Choice Scholarship. So what is happening is families who have students who have either been diagnosed as autistic or have a learning difference that requires intervention, they qualify for Peterson or autism, but those families then cannot get an Ed Choice Scholarship to pay for tuition. So these scholarships, the Autism and Peterson, are used to pay for the intervention services that a school provides, but then that family is left out of the Ed Choice Scholarship and have no scholarship to pay for tuition. And so SB 311 seeks to rectify that. And so we expect that bill it had sponsor testimony on Tuesday, just yesterday, and we're expecting additional hearings that we will be testifying in favor of right after Thanksgiving, the first week of December. So we're hopeful we'll be able to get some movement on that before the end of the session. Of course, at the end of December, you may know this General Assembly session ends and the new General Assembly that was elected in November gets seated in January. Any bill that's not passed into law by the end of December has to start over again. Not expecting 311 to make it through the whole process by the end of December, so it's going to have to be reintroduced in January, but I can promise you we're going to work on that and make sure that that gets done and move that bill through the process as well. So a couple of those are kind of the backward-looking and current look at legislation. There are also a couple of other pieces of legislation that are looming on the horizon that we intend to work on that we want to let you know about. And the first one is adding chartered non-publics to the pool of schools that have right of first refusal. So the designation that Cincinnati Christian has with the state is a chartered non-public school, okay? Because you guys have seen it here, I know, because you're bursting at the seams and looking to grow right in your facilities. Schools like across Ohio are in that position right now. And yet at the same time, there's a large number of unused public school facilities that are sitting largely empty. Right now, the Ohio Revised Code requires unused public school facilities that sit unused for at least a year, and unused is 60% capacity or less. If they sit like that for more than a year, then the district is required to put them up for sale to the public. And the right of first refusal is owned by community schools, STEM schools, and boarding schools. And we are working to get chartered non-publics like Cincinnati Christian in that pool. So if there is a building that they'd be interested in, they'd have first priority on that. Another piece is the income threshold for the Ed Choice, for the full Ed Choice scholarship. So many of you know the Ed Choice scholarship for this year was set at $6,167 for K through 8, $8,407 for high school. That was the full scholarship amount. If your family income was 450% of poverty or below, then you qualified for the full scholarship. If your family income was above that, it would gradually tapered off until it got all the way down below $1,000 for both of them. One of the things that we are going to be working on to get put into the next state budget next June is to raise the income threshold from 450% FPL to 550% FPL. Again, what the General Assembly has shown is they are very much in favor of school choice, but they want to incrementally expand it. And so this is kind of the next incremental expansion that we hope to have. Coupled that with SB 311, which would allow people to be on more than one, families to be on more than one scholarship. Okay? Now that was a quick run through a lot of pieces of legislation, and there are other things on there. I'll be around if any of you have questions on any of those bills. I'd be happy to chat afterwards with any of you. But it is the next couple weeks, through the end of the year, up until Christmas, it's going to be a really busy time. On my way traveling here from Columbus, the new Speaker of the House was elected, or I should say selected, by the majority caucus. That happened to be the Republican caucus. And they selected Matt Huffman to be the new House Speaker. He'll formally be elected to that position, or expect to be formally elected in January when they convene the new session for the first time. But I will say this is really good news for us, because there really is no greater champion for school choice in the General Assembly than Matt Huffman. He most recently was the Senate President, and was one of the big lawmaker forces behind the EdChoice expansion. And we expect the same kind of commitment from him now in the House. And the House has been the problematic chamber for us on those issues. So largely it's been supportive, but we're looking forward to great things from a House under the leadership of Matt Huffman from Lima. So that's kind of the legislative update. Again, happy to chat with anybody afterwards about any particulars that we have. But right now I want to get into the scholarship granting organization participation for CCS and how you all can get involved, okay? So let me just go back and kind of set the stage for those of you on what the SGO program is. In HB 33, I'm sorry, in the budget before HB 33, so this was in the summer of 2021, the General Assembly authorized a tax credit that would go to individuals, Ohio tax-paying individuals, who made a contribution to a certified scholarship granting organization. That tax credit would be a dollar-for-dollar reduction in the individual's tax liability up for donations to an SGO up to $750 for an individual, or $1,500 for a married couple that files jointly, okay? Within several months of that authorization, we launched an OCEN scholarship granting organization. And in that first year of operations, we collected $65,000 for scholarships for students in Christian schools across Ohio, including Cincinnati Christian. In year 2, which would have been last school year, we were able to distribute almost $1.6 million in scholarships. This school year, we were able to distribute about $3.4 million in scholarships. And next year, our goal is to distribute $5 million in scholarships. So we are really expecting the growth of this program, because it is such a no-brainer for families like you to participate. And that's what I want to walk you through. But I want you to understand how valuable this program is to the students who attend Cincinnati Christian and to the school itself, because there are a number of students who, even with an EdChoice scholarship, still need additional help to fund that difference between the EdChoice scholarship and your actual tuition or any of the fees that you have or anything like that. And that's where the SGO scholarship comes into play. We are able to stack, essentially, an SGO scholarship on top of an EdChoice scholarship for students who need that done. We are required by law to prioritize low-income students, which the state arbitrarily defines that as 300% of the poverty level and below. But once we prioritize those students, we're free to give scholarships to any other student that applies. Now, I know of some schools in our network whose desire is to raise enough money through the SGO program so that every student is able to attend fully paid for. And that is certainly within grasp of schools. And I want to kind of explain how that might work, okay? But if you look at, well, let me kind of explain why this is so easy to participate in as a giver, okay? If you did not love Cincinnati Christian Schools, you wouldn't be here tonight. You wouldn't be listening to this on your computer, right? So you obviously care about the school and you care about the kids who attend here. The amazing thing about the program is you are going to be paying this money one way or the other, right? You're either going to be paying it to the state of Ohio in the form of state income tax, or you're going to be redirecting that by making a gift to the SGO and allowing students to use that money for a scholarship to attend here, right? So by making a gift to the SGO, the state is going to reduce your gift by the amount, reduce your tax liability by the amount of your gift, whether it's $150, whether it's $600, whether it's $1,500 as a couple. So the gift essentially costs you nothing. What you're doing is redirecting your taxes from going to the Department of Taxation to students at Cincinnati Christian. Who would not want to do that, right? It's a school that we love, and it's such a simple way to do it. And I want to show you tonight how simple it actually is, because I promise you, you can do this in 5 minutes. Okay, it is such a simple process, and I suspect many of you who are either here tonight or watching the video have already done it. Now, if you've already made a gift, what I do want to say is that beginning next week, the platform changes slightly, okay? It's a platform that's going to allow administration of the program, both at the school level and at our SGO level, much, much simpler, and even be more user-friendly for you. But what you'll do that's different from last year is set up an account on the new platform, okay? And that will take 2 minutes to do. If you remember the information you filled in last year, it'll be the same thing that you provide us to set up the account. And then once you set up the account, and I'll walk you through this in just a sec, once you set up that account, that's where you would get all your information, all your historical data, that's where you would get your tax receipting that you'll need and so forth, okay? So that's just all background. The platform is going to change a little bit next week. But let me show you the first screen, if you advance it, and show you to our, okay. Oh, before we do that, I didn't forget about this. I want to show you how powerful this can be. Okay, right now at Cincinnati Christian, you have about 450 families enrolled in the school. If just a little more than half of them were to participate in the program at some level, okay, let's say 250 of those 450 were to say, I'm willing to redirect my taxes to CCS scholarships. And each of them, on average, gave $1,000. So some of them may give the full $1,500. Some of the families may only give $250. All those gifts are worthwhile and valuable, right? Some families may only be able to do $250 because they have to wait for the return to come in order to be made whole. But if you can only give $250, it's still a valuable gift. But if on average there's $1,000 from those $250, and then they add one set of grandparents, right, out of that family. So if they could get half the grandparents out of that family, another 250 sets of grandparents to average $1,000, and 100 additional staff, alumni, or friends of the school were to make a gift, again, all averaging essentially $1,000, that's 600 giving units at $1,000. Cincinnati Christian could raise $600,000, I believe, fairly easily for scholarships for kids to attend the school. It's a funding source both for families and for the school that really is almost unprecedented. I know of 2 or 3 other states in the whole country that have both a school choice scholarship and an SGO scholarship platform that can be used. So Ohio's in a really unique position. And I really want to encourage you all to take advantage of it, because it's going to be able to do things for the students and the school that 5 years ago we could have never possibly imagined would have been the case. Okay? So if you can advance it, I'll show you what our website looks like. If this is something that you choose to do, and all you have to do is go to our website, and that is OCEN.org, OCEN.org, so it's a simple website. And you'll see there are a number of things, but across the top, one of the things you'll see is OCEN SGO. If you see that button on the top, if you click on that button, and if you go to the next slide, it takes you to this page, okay? And this is the donor page. Again, beginning next week, it's going to look slightly different, although the information is going to be almost identical, okay? The information that we need to collect from you on this donor page is fairly simple, right? It's your name, it's your address, it's your email address, because we need a means of contacting you, because we have to send you and provide you the receipt and contact you in case there are any questions. And then you make the amount. If you'll see the box about the middle of the screen where it says designation, all you want to do is, after you select the gift amount, either $750, $1,500, or some other amount, $200, $350, whatever you're comfortable giving, it can give. Then you want to click that drop-down box where it says designation, and all 76 of our participating schools will show up in alphabetical order. So you simply scroll down to the C's, you select Cincinnati Christian Schools, and then you go ahead, and once you fill in that, that literally is all you need to do, right? There's no uploading of any tax paperwork, there's nothing like that. You simply click submit. Oh, I should say, you provide us with your credit card information or your ACH, your bank account information for an ACH transfer. And then you click submit. There's also a way, you can see, it's cut off at the top. But you can also give by check. If you don't want to give by credit card or ACH transfer, you can simply click on the give by check. It'll take you to a similar form as this. You complete the form, and then you mail in a check to the address that we give to you. And then either way, if you give online, you'll immediately get a receipt emailed to you. I was talking to Jennifer, and she made her gift, I think earlier today, or earlier this week. And she showed me the receipt that she got in the email. She says, is this what I send in with my taxes? And the answer is yes. So you'll immediately get an email that day with the receipt of your gift. If you choose to mail by check, then we legally can't issue the receipt until we receive the check in hand. But once the check arrives at our office, we match it with the giving form that you made, and then we will send you the receipt once we get the check. You want to hang on to that receipt, okay, because that is what you attach with your tax return when you file it in March or April, whenever you choose to. Now, I'm going to give you one secret here. Usually, the way tax law works is to claim a credit or a deduction, and I want to make sure that you understand the difference between credit and deduction. If you were to make a gift to Cincinnati Christian Schools, just directly to Cincinnati Christian, you want to direct it toward, let's say, the 5th grade science class, okay? And you wanted to give $500 to that. You would qualify for a deduction on your taxes. That means that you can deduct that $500 from the amount of income that the state is able to tax you on. The power of the SGO is that you're not getting a deduction, you're getting a credit, which means they don't take the amount of your gift and deduct it from your income, they deduct it from your tax liability. So that is, if you give $500 to the SGO, that's $500 less in taxes that you'll pay. It's much more powerful, okay? But when you, typically, you need to make a gift by December 31st in order to qualify for the credit in that tax year, right? The General Assembly, though, has done an amazing thing, and last year they authorized donors to SGOs to make their gift all the way up until the day they file their state taxes, or April 15th, whichever comes first. So what I did last year is, I believe it was March 24th or something, when I sat down on a Saturday to do my taxes. The first thing I did before I started was I went to the SGO website, I made my gift of $1,500 for my wife and I, printed off the receipt, and then I immediately did my state taxes and returned that receipt in with my taxes. So instead of having to give in December and then waiting until May or June to get basically made whole on my tax return, it took literally 2 weeks before I was made whole, because I made my gift on March 24th, I sent my taxes in on March 24th, and it was several weeks later I received my tax return, and receive back essentially, it's a little bit different. It depends on how much of a refund you're getting, but I'm essentially made whole within 2 weeks. So you can choose to do either one. You can still make a gift in December. You can make a gift any day of the year, but there is this advantage now of being able to make it as late as the day that you file your state taxes. One of the things I would recommend is if you use one of the large tax software pieces to do your state taxes, and that would be H&R Block and TurboTax in particular. This program is new enough. Those tax programs have not caught up with the changes in Ohio law. So there's no way with those two programs to attach your receipt onto your tax return if you file it electronically, okay? So here's what I would recommend if you use a tax software program that does not allow you to attach or to upload a receipt when you're filing. You can do one of two things. You can either forego the electronic filing and print it off and mail it in and include the paper copy of your receipt with your filing, or you can go ahead and file it electronically, and what will happen is the state will get your claim for a tax credit and see that there's no receipt attached. They will then mail you a letter and say, please send your receipt for this gift, and they'll include a cover letter for it. It says, please send the receipt to this address. You send the receipt and the cover letter back to the Department of Taxation. Once they receive that, then they'll process your credit and your return at that point, okay? So either of those ways work, and hopefully, if not this year, in the very near future, those pieces of software will catch up and allow you to attach it if you choose to file online, okay? All right, essentially that is it. One of the other pieces of news that I will say in our SGO is that on December 1st, we open our student application window. So if you have children, CCS will share additional information on this, I'm sure. But beginning December 1st, we start receiving applications for students to receive a scholarship for next school year. So scholarship window for this school year is closed. But for 25-26, we'll start accepting applications. Certainly anybody is welcome to apply for those. The more money that Cincinnati Christian has designated for their pool, the more scholarships we can give out, and the more likely you're to get one. So I should note that if you make a gift to the SGO, your child is still eligible to receive a scholarship. So it doesn't disqualify you from receiving a scholarship, but I do want to say, legally, we cannot match the two. So the fact that you make a gift to the SGO does not mean that money is going to your child, or even that your child is guaranteed a scholarship, okay? It goes into the pool, and then your child qualifies just like any other child, but you're not disqualified for making it, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. But that is really it. The student application is almost as simple as the donor application. When you go in, you'll create an account for your family. You'll be able to apply for multiple children at one time. You provide some contact information. The one difference on that is, the student application is because we are legally required to prioritize low-income students, we have to have a means of income verification. And so we ask you to upload on the site the front page of your most recent tax return. So if you apply in December, it would be for your 2023 taxes. We encourage you to black out any of your Social Security information. We don't want or need that, right? So black that out. The information that we need on there is how many dependents you are claiming and what your AGI was for the year. But you'll simply upload that. It's easy to attach it. It's less than a 10-minute process for the whole student application. You can apply for all of your children at the same time. And then we'll begin making awards depending on when the school asks us to, but typically in the spring and summer are when awards are made for the following year. All right, that's literally as simple as it comes. We're so excited to be able to serve Cincinnati Christian in this way. We hope that every family our goal at OCEN is to make high-quality Christian education financially and geographically accessible to every student in Ohio. And our goal is to have 50% of Ohio students in Christian schools or homeschool by 2032, so 8 years from now. We've moved the needle. We've gone from 16 to about 21% in the last year, and we see that we only expect continued growth in that area, just as we talk to schools like yours that are experiencing that kind of growth. So we believe that Christian education is a life-giving and a life-changing experience for kids. And so this is an incredible opportunity for all of us to come together and to make that possible for as many kids as possible. So thank you. I'm certainly happy. I'm not sure how it works with filming, but I'm happy to take any questions that you guys might have. That's a great question. So the question was, are you eligible to claim a credit on your federal taxes, or is it just your state taxes? So currently, it only applies to your state taxes. It was a state program, a state bill that authorized it. So if you make a gift, let's say it's a $750 gift, you claim your credit, your state taxes are reduced $750. Your federal taxes are unchanged, okay? Now, as a matter of fact, the IRS has ruled that if you claim a gift as a state or local credit or deduction, you may not also claim it as a federal deduction or a credit, okay? Even as a federal deduction. So they consider that double dipping, right? So you're not allowed to do that. But there is a bill pending right now in Congress that would authorize a federal tax credit for individuals who gave to SGOs like ours. Now, before the election, that bill wasn't going anywhere. It would never have passed the Senate. With the changing composition of Congress, and now both houses being controlled by a majority that at least ostensibly supports school choice, and an administration that has vocally supported school choice, we believe there's a very good chance that bill gets moved in the next Congress. And that would be, again, that would open up tremendous opportunities for the growth of the program. Yeah, it's a great question. So the question she asked was, if a couple wants to give the full $1,500, or really anything above $750, do they have to make separate gifts in the name of each spouse, or can they make a single gift as a family? And the answer is you can make a single gift. When you complete the form, you want to make sure that both spouses' names are filled into the identification fields, and there'll be ways it'll be obvious when you see it. That way, when the receipt is given, the receipt shows John and Sally Smith gave $1,500. If it just said John Smith gave $1,500, you would be capped at $750. But you could give two separate gifts of $750, but it's a whole lot easier just to give a single $1,500. Just make sure both your names are on the gift. Well, thank you so much for the invitation to come down and speak to you guys about it. We want to raise a lot of money for Cincinnati Christian this year and the students who go here, because the work that the school does and the experiences that the kids have matter. And it's life-changing for so many kids, and we want to be able to make that happen for as many as possible. So feel free to, if you have any questions, if you go onto our website, there's a contact us on the website. Feel free. We field questions like that all the time. So feel free to contact us, and we want to make sure that your experience is as easy and seamless as possible. Thank you very much.